2. Hi, this is Deanna Kosaraju, founder of Global Tech Women. Welcome to Voices 2017. And we are wishing everyone out there who's watching this live, as well as the recordings, a very happy International Women's Day. And also want to recognize our sisters out there who are participating in the Day Without Women strike that's happening in the United States, as well as in many parts of the world. Both Jerry and I are wearing our red in support of you all, and hope that you are having a very safe and informative day, and sending a message to everyone how important women are in this society, and we stand with you. So this is kind of our Women in Tech sit-in for today, these 3 sessions that we're hosting here at Voices, so that we hope that you will participate in the sessions today. I would like to introduce Colette Ellis. She is doing a session on Start Within, being mindful in a 2.0 world. I think being mindful is probably one of the most difficult yet critical things that we must do as women. We're always multitasking. We're always having competing tasks, ideas, notions, and people who are vying all for our attention, often at the degradation of our own mind, our own mindfulness. So I look forward to hearing more from Colette on this session. And this session will be recorded, and we will have it available on our website within 10 to 15 minutes after the session concludes. So with that, I'm turning it over to Colette.
Wonderful. Thank you, Deanna. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Coach Colette Ellis, and I am coming to you live from Chelsea, Manhattan, at the Center for Social Innovation. And while it might seem a little strange, there is actually a wonderful group of people, and also a friend of mine who is participating in the session here. So if I do happen to turn around and sort of point out where handouts are, just know that there is someone there, and it's actually do a little baby wave. Hi. Great. So thanks for taking the opportunity to invest time in yourself and really think about how we can be more bold for change. And so I'm going to be talking about how mindfulness can help us to take more bold action, which is the theme for today's International Women's Day. So let's see. Get our slides to, yay, all right. So my intention is to help you again to be more mindful so you can be more resilient, to take change and to deal with change and take bold actions, and that's on a personal or professional front. And so if you're watching us live, participating live, and or watching the recording, I want you to be thinking about what's your intention for today and what would you like to be able to get from today's session. And I'll share even if Jerry or Deanna have any thoughts about what they would like to get from today's session.
I'm always looking to find new ways. This is Jerry. Hi. To find ways so that I can really find a way to focus. You know, there are so many tasks, and I manage social media for one company, and I do marketing for another, and I feel like things are constantly happening. I'm trying to find a way to create better focus.
Cool.
I think I probably have the same goal as well, is taking more control of the things that are happening and how it's affecting my mindfulness, and maybe some ways that I can improve that.
Cool. Elizabeth, anything?
Yeah, I can focus on being more mindful. I have a very full schedule of my week. Oftentimes I'm out of my focus. I need to start to make this time to start helping a little bit more of my journey.
Cool. Great. Thank you.
Hey, Coach Colette, could you repeat that because she was really hard to hear?
Sure. Yeah, I know that sense of really being able to incorporate mindfulness, not just on a more regular basis with that, but yeah, being able to do it more regularly. And I think, like all of us, we're juggling many things, and so being able to find and make that time, and I think make that commitment to self is really, really important. And I think, ironically, whenever I leave these sessions, I always end up with something that will happen that will remind me about my own mindfulness or lack thereof. For example, yesterday I lost a bracelet and I thought, yeah, you know, I wasn't, you know, maybe being as mindful as I could be when I was putting on my coat or taking off my coat, right? So that sense of, even though I'm sharing all of this information with all of you, know that this is something that's important to me, as well as things that I'm still practicing, and I still find opportunities to learn and increase my own ability to do this. So thank you. Awesome. So just wanted to share a little bit briefly the fact that this session is actually part of my full program, which is called Start Well to Lead Well, which is a transformational program for women founders, women innovators, women leaders. And it really is based on my work, as I said, my journey to mindfulness, my journey to be able to lead programs and teams with more compassion and confidence. And so you'll see there are 7 steps in the Start Well to Lead Well program. And today we're going to really be focusing on that one step in the middle, which is how do we start within? How do we go in and be able to reconnect to our inner drive, our inner passion, our inner wisdom, our inner knowledge. And you can see that being in the center, that really drives all of the other steps and really drives our ability to be able to get clear on what we want and be able to take better care of our health, take action with intention, communicate with more impact, stay in flow, and then obviously to lead our teams and projects more mindfully. So, and if there's time at the end, I will share a little bit more about how you can connect with me to learn more about that. So the first question that I have for everyone is, how do you feel about change? And if you could share how you feel about change in one word, what might that one word be? And it could be anything that you feel when you think, oh God, I gotta do something differently. What comes up for you?
For me, Jerry, I always find it stressful.
You find it stressful, and Elizabeth basically behind me said, I love it. So that's interesting. So we've got stressful, we love it. What about you, Deanna?
Endless. I think change is a constant.
Yeah, and I think, and the reason why I start us here is because it's, again, important to start within, and also to get a sense of, you know, we're dealing with a lot of changes, you know, a lot of changes that are happening, and I'm going to share in a moment some stats around what's happening, particularly for women in tech, which I know is one of the primary audiences for this particular session and all of Deanna's sessions. But we are dealing with change, and it's really important for us to be able to understand how we react to change. So someone like Elizabeth who's like, I love it, yay! Or those of us that are like, oh my God, I really can't deal with change, or it's hard, or it's difficult, it's challenging. I know for me, it can be challenging sometimes to deal with change. So when we think about tech and women and diversity, so these are some stats that I pulled together from some research that I did prior to the session, talking about what's going on in terms of women in IT and women in technology in general. So we hold only 26% of computing occupations. 88% of all IT patents have male-only invention teams. Black women holding only 3% of positions in tech, and Latinas only holding 1%. And you might ask, well, why do I share this information? And I think it's really important for us to understand where we are in terms of the landscape. I always say that knowledge is power, so sometimes even when the news isn't pleasant, it's still important to really be thinking about what's going on in our field, what's going on in the industry. And then this brings us to, so if you think of the broader picture of what's happening, then we need to be thinking about, well, what's happening in our own companies, in our organizations, in our businesses, right? So people tend to be more dissatisfied, right? They're not working in supportive work environments, right? There are, people are leaving tech, people are leaving companies. So when we talk about change, right, so I want you to be thinking about that. The first question on your handout is like, well, what's your reaction to change? how does it make you feel? And then the third question on the handout says, well, what's the impact of this change, either to your own business, to your company if you happen to be working for a larger company, or for those of us that are running startups or have created our own organizations. How is this starting to impact us and our teams? What's going on in that arena? So we've got workplace dissatisfaction, and then lastly, women are leaving, right? And I thought it was interesting that so the split on this slide is 49% continue to use their technology training, and 51% when they leave abandon their IT training. So that means we're only keeping less than half of women still in some sort of tech capacity. More than half of them are going into other fields. So again, from the perspective of whether you are running your own company and you think about, okay, how am I attracting women into my organization, or for women that are already within larger companies, right? What's happening? Are you staying in the field, sort of toughing, getting yourself mentally tough and ready to prepare for things? Or are you deciding that it's not worth the effort and maybe I'll leave? Any thoughts or comments, either from Jerry or Deanna, and what you're seeing in the tech industry?
Well, I think that this is very true. And I think what happens, you got two sets of things. One is the environment often discourages women from staying in or choosing a career in technology because of the culture. But also the women who decide to jump in often get outmoded, because what happens is they choose legacy systems, or they choose systems that are stable so that they can have a stable life. Mm-hmm. And what happens then is technology moves and they don't stay up to date on current trends in training. And so when that training when that change happens, then they're outmoded, and then they lose their position, and they have to leave a company and then find it difficult to come back in because their skills have become antiquated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I also think that women in tech face the paradigm where, they're not expected to be in tech. I had a conversation this morning with a professor who's a woman of color as a professor, and she says she's walked into the room with much younger grad students, and the person in the room will go to the white male grad student and say, "Oh, hello, professor," blah, blah,
Wow.
like looking at her as if she was, the secretary, so to speak, and she said it just happens all the time. So I think for a lot of women, it can get exhausting because people always assume, oh, well, you're not a scientist, you're not a computer spec, you're not a technologist because you're a woman. I think it's daunting. I think that's why you see, especially on your chart, people abandoning their training. It's how do you persevere? How long do you keep going? And it's hard to get those degrees. So giving up their training is horrendous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A little closer.
Particularly road, their families can take on more roles, sometimes it's hard to find that balance. So at least
Yeah, and so that was why I really thought, because I think maybe people were thinking like mindfulness and tech, why is she talking about that? But it really is about that. How do we, Jerry put it really well, that sense of how do we persevere, right? So, and also the fact that, right, so if you're investing this time in your education, you're investing this time in training, whether it's learning how to code or learning how to use certain systems, build systems, create things, thinking of the whole STEM field, even beyond just IT, right? There's a lot of investment that goes into this. So how do we arm ourselves with the other skills that enable us to be able to persevere? And yes, being in those rooms where, yes, you're the only male counterpart. We had a breakfast this morning, and the speaker said the same thing, where she'll be there with her business partner, and he's a man, she's a woman, and they'll go to meet with a client, and the client automatically looks at the man, you know, to ask questions. And in that case, she's fortunate that her business partner is aware of it and doesn't ignore it and let it slide. He'll find ways to navigate and bring her into the conversation. And of course, she's also quite confident and capable of doing that herself. But yeah, so that's why I start this presentation kind of with this reality check, so that we really are fully aware of the fact that these things are real. And while we are thinking about what are the larger ways to change some of these systems, we also want to be thinking about what are the ways from the inside out that we're able to motivate and arm ourselves to be able to deal with this. And my suggestion today is that mindfulness is one of the ways that we can do so. So let's jump in. So this sense of starting within or being mindful, I think can often be scary. And I think that sometimes people are, you know, I went through periods in my life where I was like, don't show me the mirror. I don't really want to know what's going on in there, because that's kind of a scary world, right? But as I've learned over time is that there's a deeper level of authenticity that comes from being mindful, from going within. It really does change your relationship with yourself. And so I'm curious to know what you all think about that. Like, have you had this sort of trepidation, fear about getting more mindful, being more quiet? Is that something that you've experienced, or was that just my challenge? Thoughts?
I have to say, being more quiet has never been my thing. But I do find it daunting to try and achieve that level of focus. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel so, at times just so split between so many things, but I really want to achieve that total focus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jenny, you want to run?
I think that being authentic is in technology is a difficult thing to do often. I think that, we're kind of prescribed a certain number of character traits and behaviors that fit in, and others that not so much. And so I think what happens to a lot of women is they spend a lot of time with that emotional intelligence, like reading the room and knowing, when to present themselves and how to present themselves. And it kind of shuts off or stifles the ability to be within and to be yourself, because you're kind of always on guard.
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I agree with what you both said. I love change, but I hate focus. And I think it's something I need to focus on. I feel oftentimes, particularly in business settings, it's important to posture in a certain way so that you're presenting, and sometimes that means that you're not being your authentic self. So at least within it, it's important for me to try to at least be honest, more so with myself, and be more mindful of what's going on my interior. Even if for business reasons my exterior is going to be showing something that may not be what I'm feeling, but at least for me not to close that off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Colette, can you summarize what she said?
So that sense of there's like an inner and an outer. So that sense of, while you might need to present something, like today I'm facilitating, right? So there's a sense of having the external component, but then there's also a sense of how do you manage what's going on inside? And I think that sometimes that there can be that challenge or that conflict. Yeah. So for example, I would say, for me to be mindful, we here at CSI, we have what are called portable meditation chambers. And Francine will love that I just gave a shout out to Buddha Booths on this webinar.
Buddha Booth.
I took a moment, or I took more than a moment. I took 10 minutes in the Buddha Booth to be able to get calm, get focused, get centered, and meditate before being on this webinar with you. So it's definitely something that I do every day, or I aim to do every day, and I notice the difference. Like on a day like today, I needed to be up very early. I needed to be here by 8:30. So I did not do what I normally do, which is to meditate first thing in the morning. And I knew that not just for the fact of needing to walk my talk for today's session, but also I know that when I don't do it, I'm more easily swayed by what's happening around me, right? So things that, normal things, maybe, in New York, we commute on the subway, right? So someone may bump me on the subway, and it'll just be that sort of sense of it bothers me a little bit more, right? And then it's like, oh, right, I didn't meditate this morning. So I take that opportunity, and on a normal day when I don't have a major commute or very early events, I take at least 30 minutes in the morning to do meditation. I have a meditation app that I use on my phone. I'll focus on different chakras. So I definitely take it as something that is part of my daily routine. So the other thought that I guess I would share on this is the fact that particularly when you're developing a new habit, it is important to, however you would say, schedule it, make it something that you commit the time to, and if something else comes up, stick to that time for yourself. When it becomes something that you do normally, it may not be as much of a challenge, but when you're learning something new, it can be really important to make sure that you say, this is my time that I'm going to do this, whether it's at the start of the day, at the end of the day, at lunchtime, but even it doesn't have to be 30 minutes, right? It could be 2 minutes, 5 minutes, just taking that time to go in and to be peaceful. Any thoughts or comments on that? Good.
No, I agree. I think you need to have that time to center yourself. I was thinking that the thing that also changes as you get older is that you start shedding a lot of the, I'm trying to think of the right word, of the things that, the less authentic things in your life, sort of, because it just becomes too hard to keep them. So you want that, so that's why you're seeking focus and things, but you're also offloading a lot.
Right. And part of that, I see that is when I talk about it with clients, it's around this step of clarifying priorities, right? So really being clear about what's important to you, and then arranging your life, arranging your tasks, arranging your network around those things that are important. And you're right, as you put less attention on those other things, then they will start to fall away. So that, right, because we say where attention goes, it grows. So that sense of, if you start to change your priorities and you start to make meditation or whatever form of mindfulness as part of your priority, then it starts to shape how you interact. So cool. Great. So we're starting within, and then my next point around this is how well you manage your energy will determine how well you deal with change. And I guess except for Elizabeth, who's like, woohoo, change, for the rest of us that are like, wow. So when I talk about managing energy, it's another aspect of mindfulness. It's a sense of really knowing what things work for you to be able to reach that deeper sense of calm, that greater sense of groundedness. So I mentioned a few things earlier. For me, meditation. For me, also listening to relaxing or calming music. Taking that opportunity to go into a private space, to be with myself, to collect my thoughts. But the more that you're able to manage your internal energy, that's what's really going to help you to be able to be more resilient and deal with those changes that we started talking about. And I have become a really big fan of chakras. I don't know if folks are familiar with chakras. So the chakra systems, we have at least 7 in our body. And those are internal areas where we manage different aspects of ourselves. And for me, the one that I wanted to share more about today was our 3rd chakra, which is in the navel. You can't see, I'm pointing to my navel, but it's below camera view. But this is the chakra that holds self-esteem and holds, you know, our own inner and personal power. And so focusing and meditating around the third chakra can be a really great way to manage your energy and be able to feel that sense of inner strength and inner power come from within. And each of the chakras have a mantra. And so the mantra for the third chakra is Ram. So even that sense of, just repeating like Ram inside and feeling how it resonates in that area around your belly can be a way of helping to manage that internal energy. Has anyone ever done any kind of chakra work, or is this familiar?
No.
Yeah. So that sense of being able to, and one of the meditation apps that I use actually has each of the chants are shared, and it goes from the lower chakra up to your crown chakra. And so when I'm meditating, it goes through each of the 7 chants, and so it's really relaxing for me just to listen to that meditation app, and it's a way of kind of regulating my system, if you will, again, in those moments where I may need to get that greater grounding. Have you had any? Okay, cool. So think of Ram when you're really trying to energize yourself and get to that, really tap into your personal power. That can be something before you go into a meeting, before you get on a conference call, before you have maybe a challenging conversation. That can be something that you can use to activate that energy, because really being able to do this and manage your internal energy is going to really help you to be more resilient. So we're going to walk around today saying Ram. How's that? I think we lost your audio, Deanna. Okay.
Am I back?
Yes, you're back. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying Ram, 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 Ram.
Exactly. Yeah, so you can say it, or you can also have it, just non-verbally in your mind, right? Because it's a sense of connecting into that source of personal power. Cool. So the other piece is to think about in terms of affirmations. And so when I think of when fears or issues come up for us, there's an opportunity for us to reconnect to or hold the opposite thought. So, for example, the affirmations here listed, and they're also on the handout. So if we have fear of change, or we have this fear of what's coming next and uncertainty, we can take on the affirmation that is, I face the unknown, right? So before a meeting, before a conference call, not being sure what's going to happen, but sharing that affirmation with ourselves, I face the unknown, and thinking about I face the unknown from my place of personal power, right? We just talked about, so you've got this Ram affirmation, and you're affirming this fact that, yes, I can face the unknown. And another affirmation I thought that would be relevant and helpful today is, I learned from all of life's experiences, right? We talked about the fact that things are going to change, even things that we don't appreciate, or things that we may think, wow, I wish that could have gone differently. Being able to get back into a sense of curiosity, being able to tap into this sense of whatever is I'm encountering or experiencing is an opportunity for me to learn. So again, affirmations are a way that we can reconnect to those internal, your internal courage, your internal power to be able to deal with uncertainty. Thoughts? Does anyone use affirmations as part of their mindfulness practice?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Awesome, great. And I wanted to share a little tip or trick. I don't know, has anyone heard of emotional freedom technique or tapping before?
No.
So tapping is using various parts. There are acupressure or acupuncture points, but the beauty of tapping is that you can use your fingers and not needles. So for those of you that might have that issue of, yeah, exactly. Right. So, and so tapping is a way that enables us, again, to either release fears, release anxiety, release pain, and it also can be a way to call in some of the courage and mindfulness that we're talking about. And the trick I wanted to share with you, because sometimes people have either issues with affirmations and also may have had experiences where, you know, I was saying all these positive affirmations and it didn't work, right? And one of the issues that sometimes can come up is we can have that internal chatter, you know, that like internal voice inside of us that, you know, you're saying, I face the unknown, and there's a part of you that goes, yeah, no, I don't. So in tapping, what we call is the karate chop, which is the side of your hand that you would use if you were, you know, chopping a block of wood. And you can use what in tapping is called a setup statement. And the setup statement is designed to counteract any of those negative thoughts that chatter might be going on in your head. So if you were going to be saying something, you might say, even though I'm fearful of change, I deeply love and accept myself. And you say it 3 times. So even though I am fearful of change, I deeply love and accept myself. Even though I'm fearful of change, I deeply love and accept myself. And then sharing and saying the affirmations, there's an aspect of your system and your body. You can be going through the tapping points. Yes, I face the unknown. Even though I'm fearful of change, I face the unknown. So it's an opportunity to, acclimate yourself to this maybe new aspect of taking on the positive affirmations while still acknowledging that there might be a part of you that doesn't quite feel it yet, right? So it's not denying the fact that you may be fearful of change, it's acknowledging it. So it's not hiding it, it's not stuffing it, it's bringing it to the surface and then still allowing yourself to create the possibility that you can accept something that's unknown. So thoughts or comments on tapping?
Does what you're saying relate to a specific spot that you're tapping on?
There are, and more than we can likely cover today, but I can also share that information in terms of, yes, the different tapping points connect to different points of your body. So for example, when I tap under the eye, that is a great way that also connects to your digestive system. So maybe if you're a little bit nervous before doing a presentation and you get those butterflies, you know, tapping here can be a great way to relieve that. So yes, there are body physical points that the tapping points are connected to, as well as different emotional points as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Have you ever tried tapping? Yeah, cool. And yes, and I can share more information, including a diagram. I guess I can figure out that with Deanna to share that so people can have access to that.
That would be great.
That'd be great.
Cool. So the other point, and we've been sharing a lot about this already, is the fact that starting within, and now I'm laughing because I just said about digestion. So I would say when it brings back the fire in your belly, it's not the indigestion fire in your belly. It's that wrong power fire in your belly, so that you feel inspired to take more bold actions. And so it's really this sense of figuring out how it is that when you feel inspired, right, when you feel connected, when you feel grounded, it really does enable you to take action. And even if it's small action, like I say, there are a couple of things I would say about action. One is not acting is also a form of action, right? So we say, if I don't do anything, that means I'm not acting. But technically, that's not really true, because not taking action is still a form of action. It's a form of not doing anything, right? So again, this sense of being more mindful and understanding, what is it that I really want? What is it that I'm seeking to accomplish? How can I reconnect to my sense of power? Enables us to take even just that first small step, right? So we don't necessarily change the world overnight, but we can take one small action and then take another small action. So reconnecting to that inner purpose and that inner desire can be the way that starts to take that first small step, that next small step for action. The other thing is, when we're speaking from a place of mindfulness, we also talk about our challenges differently. And so there's the opportunity to share that sense of, yep, this is going on. Like exactly, when I was talking about in the tapping, I may be a little scared of what's going to come next, but you know what? I know that I can face the unknown, and this is the next step that I'm going to take. And when we start sharing those conversations with others in our network and in our community, resources start to appear, people start to appear. And part of that, I think, is because we become more attuned to it, we become more aware of it, and we're also voicing that goal, voicing those actions, voicing those intentions, and we start to feel the ripple effect of that. And that's definitely something that I've noticed, being here in the community. I believe I shared I'm coming to you from Center for Social Innovation, and we have a weekly mastermind within our women's lab, and we talk about, what's the one thing that we want to accomplish this week for our business or for our organization, and just putting it out there. Sometimes the resource comes back immediately, or sometimes it comes more directly or later. But I really strongly believe that the more that we share what our desires are, that we start to attract those people and resources. What do people think? I heard you say. Yeah. What do you all think about that? That speaking your intentions and speaking your actions starts to attract those resources to you.
I agree. I'm a big believer in putting out what you want to get back, and I think that the more you surround yourself with people who understand what you're trying to accomplish, and both as a person and in your professional life, the more it comes back. And then like Zig Ziglar always says, you can get what you want by helping enough other people get what they want. I also believe in that as well. So I think those are two things that definitely I follow on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think the other piece to this is how we share it, right? So when we're sharing it from a centered, grounded, mindful perspective, people also resonate with us differently, right? So because we've all had people that may approach us, and you can sort of feel that sense of like, the anxiety and the pressure, and right, and I aim to manage my energy very consciously. So even I can tell, like, then I make the conscious choice. Okay, if I'm feeling that energy from someone, am I going to want to go in there, right? I might make that choice to do so, but in my head, I'm already thinking, like, because I also tend to be someone who can take on other people's energy, so I can be very careful about how I interact and making sure that I'm grounded. But I think from the perspective of sharing, like we're saying, when we share from a grounded space, then people react and are attracted to that energy, and they're like, wow, I want to be a part of that. I want to share in that experience. And I think particularly also we're talking about, bringing it back to Global Tech Women is, those examples that we've been talking about, like, how do you walk into a room? How do you hold yourself? How do you present yourself, right? If you are presenting yourself from that space of confidence, from that space of ROM, right? People are going to start to take notice, and it may not be immediate, but you can bring that confidence, you can bring that power into the space and watch and see how people react and see if they take notice. I'm going to argue that they are going to take notice in a different way because you're bringing that presence, you're bringing that confidence with you. Yeah, that sense of, and because sometimes we do need to be the person that claims that space, right? And I know for those of us that work in larger organizations, that might seem challenging. And so hopefully some of the tips and techniques we talked about can help you, right? And thinking about, okay, the next meeting, the next conference that I attend, how am I going to be able to step into my space, step into my power? How can I use mindfulness and meditation and all the things that we've been talking about to claim my space and hold on to that confidence and power. So the next time, like your friend or your colleague, like she owns her professorship and she walks into that room and she claims that space, which I'm sure she does when she's teaching. But sometimes it's also we need to claim that space when we're in the networking mode, or when we're not in our how do I want to say this, our more obvious leadership roles.
Right.
Okay. So today is International Women's Day. So the question that I was wanting to pose to the group is, how will you be bold for change? And that can be personally or professionally. So this actually came from the International Women's Day website, and they have a series of Be Bold statements. And I thought that this one would be perfect for today's session. So I will be bold, and anyone want to share? A moment to share. Okay. So Elizabeth says that she will be bold and prioritize self-care.
Ooh,
Really important.
I like that one.
Yeah, I do too.
She said you can borrow.
We might have to. I think for me, I will be bold in creating daily actions to help move the world towards a better place.
Ooh, I like that. So daily action, so something that you can do every day.
Yeah. If I can go to bed every night and say, I've done at least one thing to move the world into a better place, then I will have succeeded.
Awesome. Very cool. Jerry, anything come up for you?
I was just thinking, I will be bold. And, one of the things I vowed this morning was that I was going to live by the rules of today, to support women and minority-owned businesses exclusively, to not spend money anywhere else, and just to talk about it with as many people as possible, and, encourage people to participate. Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have is a lot of people are like, oh, this is nothing. Oh, this is a women's thing. And I'm like, no, this is about everybody. So.
Right. Cool. I know we have others that I can't see. Is there anything in the chat that's come up?
I have not seen anything on chat, but please, if you want to post on chat, I will be happy to read it for you.
Awesome.
But I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay, so. Great. Yep. So I would say, let's see, I will be bold, and I think it's interesting what you said, Jerry, that sense of I will be bold and speak up when I hear things that are off is the only thing that's coming to mind right now, but that sense of not allowing when someone says something that, and particularly I think, I'm sorry, I'm not making full, clear sentences. Sorry. I guess what I would say is I will be bold and I don't want to say confront, but I will be bold and approach or speak out when I hear people say things about others. Because for me, when you're in those situations where someone says something, but it's not necessarily directly your group or the group that you represent, and so people think, oh, it's safe to say this about this group because you're not with them. And I want to be more bold and call that out and say, right, for example, around immigration, I don't happen to be an immigrant, but if someone's making a comment about that, I'm going to be bold and speak up, because if any one of us is attacked or disempowered, we're all, none of us are safe, none of us are empowered. So that's my be bold statement.
That's great.
Yeah, sorry that it was a little wordy.
No, it's really good.
Because I had the thought in my head of very specific, because I've had those things happen. And more often than not, I do speak up, but I think it's even more important that we all speak up, even if we're not the face of whomever's being attacked.
Right. I believe that you have to speak up for the people who are being attacked, because eventually it will become you.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
We are all connected. And so, when we just stand by and allow it to happen, it's happening to us as well.
Exactly. So, yeah, very cool. Awesome. Great. So the question that I had before were, I know we've got some more time left, but how do we feel about dealing with change now? Either the personal change, dealing with professional change, and or incorporating mindfulness into our work. And you were love it before, so.
Something that mindfulness can really help on. And I think some of those practices are a really great way to be present.
Cool. So she was saying that the tapping would be a great tool or technique to be able to get even more comfortable with change and stillness. What do you ladies think?
I like the idea about meditating with the chakras, you know, to be more focused internally. I think that goes with the self-care too, and to not let the external change be a stressor. You know, sometimes it just has to be, it's changing and okay, you know, let it go, you know, rather than hold on or try and control it. Sorry, my dog has attacked me through like the last 5 minutes of this.
So change is happening right now.
Change is happening right now. I am not alone in my chair anymore. And he's like, why are you not paying attention to me?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
For me, I like the idea of managing your energy, and you know, really putting the energy where you want it to go, when you want it to go there. I really like that. I think part of the changes that I will incorporate into my daily routine is looking at that and figuring out ways that I can be more mindful in how my energy is spent.
Great. That's awesome. Cool. Have any questions or comments come up in the chat does anyone here have any additional questions that I can answer?
So I have a question about meditation. So I'm a horrible meditator, and anybody who knows me would know why. I'm just I'm just not one of those people. But what I do is I do other things, like I love to go out on a bike ride, or I just sometimes, this is going to sound crazy, but I go out and pull weeds in my yard. It just very kind of, the act of doing that to me is almost meditative in its work. So I would just want to throw that out to anyone who has challenges with meditation, you know, to find those things that make you at peace and being able to be internal for a while.
That's a great point, and I'm glad you raised it, because I think that people think that there's a right way and a wrong way to meditate, and actually that's not true. So any opportunity that you can take to go within, first of all, great, kudos. So I'll sort of go through the first part being, and I do share this with folks that in full disclosure that my mind can be active during meditation. So when I'm listening to the chakra app or listening to calming music or even participating in a 21-day meditation challenge, it doesn't mean that thoughts don't pop up. In fact, for me, that's why I do meditate using some sort of guided meditation. I actually created a guided meditation for that purpose. So there are people who can meditate in pure silence, and that's awesome, and I aspire to be able to do that more often. But it's that flow and that ebb of your thoughts. So it's not feeling like, oh, a thought popped up, so I got to stop meditating, right? So what I commit to do is I commit to the full time. So if it's 15 minutes that the app is on, I stay in my pose or where I'm seated or where I'm lying down for that full time, and thoughts will come in and thoughts will come out, and I allow that to happen. So what I've been able to do is let go of that resistance to it, and just know that some days I'm going to be in that great gap space and it's awesome, and some days it's just going to be like popcorn thoughts, and I've learned to be okay with that. So I hope that that's helpful for people as well, that it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm sitting there and nothing is happening, right? Or you know, that I don't think of anything, because I don't personally think that, I mean, I shouldn't say that's not possible, but for people, particularly for people who are just getting started, the fact that you have a thought while you're meditating it's going to happen. And then the second piece to what you said, I think is really important too, is for people to think of what are mindful tasks that they can take on, like you're saying gardening, which is great because it's hands, it's tactile, it's in the soil, very, very helpful for meditation. And then it's also thinking about, well, how can you do your regular tasks more mindfully? So if I'm eating, I'm paying attention to my food. I'm eating, I'm paying attention to the fork coming up to my mouth. I'm paying attention to how the food feels in my mouth and what the tastes are, and being very conscious of it, right? So I think, because more often than not, we eat like this, right? In front of the TV or in front of a laptop, and it's not very mindful. So it's thinking about, are there tasks that you already enjoy that feel meditative? For me, I also run, so, is it exercise, whatever it is, and then also thinking about what tasks that you do every day that you can do in a more mindful way.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, that's a biggie. Everyone thinks, I'm not a good meditator.
Yeah, I've just talked to so many people who do meditation, and, I just have way too many thoughts that just jump into my head, and I can never, it doesn't work for me. It just, yeah.
Great. Yeah. Did you have any thoughts? Cool. Do we have any other thoughts or questions in the chat?
No, we don't.
Not right now.
All's quiet.
Yep.
All's good on the chat. Okay.
We're all meditating.
But I think this has been a great discussion, and we can end it just a few minutes early and let people meditate for the next 9 minutes.
Sure. And I just wanted to share this opportunity also with people that are watching us live, as well as anyone who watches this recording. It's an opportunity to have a Start Within activation call with me, and it's just an opportunity to go a bit deeper on what are some of the challenges one might be facing around dealing with change or making a transition, and really thinking about how the system that I shared earlier, the Start Well to Lead Well system, can be helpful. It's a complimentary call, usually takes anywhere between 45 to 60 minutes, really just an opportunity to share what's going on for you and see if there are ways that I'm able to help. So the Coach Colette .atrapages.com is that website. I can also share that in the chat area. So if people want to take that opportunity, I am happily offering that to the audience of Global Tech Women.
Thank you so much.
Great, and I'll make sure that that's on the page as well, where your session recording will be.
Very cool.
Great.
Awesome.
All right.
Oops, sorry, that kind of didn't work. Two things at once.
That's great.
All right, I'm making a note of that one. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been
My pleasure.
It's been awesome. Thank you so much. I've learned a great deal, and I know that we will all be incorporating mindfulness into our daily acts as well as figuring out ways that we can incorporate some new skills in tapping and in meditation and in energy. So I'm looking forward to testing this all out.
Fantastic. Yeah, and if I can be helpful, again, reach out, and would love to have a conversation with you.
Great. All right, thanks everybody.
All right, thank you everyone.
We hope to see you at the next session, which will be at 2 p.m. Pacific, which will be 5 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there.